What is Kayak Jack and the Hidden Treasure, and how did you hear about it?
So, this book is Kayak Jack and the Hidden Treasure, and it is an armchair treasure hunt released and solved in the fall of 2020. So, it's by Gary Gordon and Nathan Kipley. It's 80 pages, and it led to a $2,500 treasure hidden somewhere in eastern Wisconsin. So, I learned about it just browsing Facebook. I found an ad, read about it, it sounded legit, and I ordered it right away.
What was your first impression after reading the book?
After reading the book, I thought that $2,500 was going to be in my pocket the next day. So I read the entire book, and I was going crazy, underlining and highlighting and identifying clues and deciding what's important and what's not important. And relatively quickly, I found out that there's two main components of the solve, and the first is the driving directions, and the second is the hiking or boots on the ground directions.
What research did you do at home to solve the clues?
So Google Maps was my first resource for solving this treasure. The two clues that jumped out at me the most was that there was a town, and it was close to an area with windmills, and it also had a Citgo gas station. So I was able to narrow down where Citgo gas stations are in eastern Wisconsin and cross-correlate that with where all the windmills were, and pretty quickly a specific town jumped out at me, and then I was able to look at other hints. So after leaving the highway headed south, they pass a ice cream shop, and so I'm looking at this road and I see an ice cream shop with a cow on the sign. So that was a good clue that I was on the right track. And then continuing, there's a triangle house that you drive past. We get to the Citgo gas station in Eden, Wisconsin, and then you pull into the Citgo, and it's just like it's described in the book. There's a four-way stop nearby. So I figure this has got to be the right spot. So we did that, research online and ground proofed it. And from there, you're pretty close to the northern Kettle Moraine, and you can narrow it down quite a bit from there. I actually skipped a couple of clues getting from Eden to the final parking location. So the main hint was that there's a worn stone staircase, and I was able to determine that Butler Lake and Flint Springs in the northern Kettle Moraine State Forest, I had that sort of feature right by the parking area. So once I had the location, I knew I had to get there as soon as possible.
What was it like searching for the treasure with boots on the ground?
So, boots on the ground, as soon as we arrived at Butler Lake, we found our first confirmation. We saw that there was an old well, a hand pump well with a bowl for pets to drink out of, as is mentioned in the book. And, we quickly ascended the staircase that's mentioned in the book and found a bench at the top of the stairs, along with, to the other side, the lake. So as soon as we arrive, we're getting triple confirmation. We're good to go. Perfect. We continue hiking down the Ice Age Trail, came to a four-way intersection, and we went the wrong way. There wasn't, it was ambiguous. There wasn't certainty as to which direction you go at this intersection. We ended up going left. And so we hiked around this 2-mile loop, constantly looking like, is that the clue? Is that the hint? And we got all the way around without anything super for certain being discovered. And so we looped around the four-way. So we've gone 3 of the 4 ways. We're like, well, let's try going to this way instead. And immediately, a couple hundred feet down that trail, we see the next hint, which is there's animal holes in the trail right by a trail sign marker. So again, getting that confirmation, you're like, yes, we're on the wire. We're on the right route. And so we continued searching, and eventually we found the W-shaped tree with a rock pile by it, with the serpent-wrapped trees, the trees intertwined with each other. And so that's the most confirmation we had up until that point, and that's when the hunt really got exciting for me, because that's where you get taken off trail and there's a little bit of orienteering or compass work that you do. So we walked through this off-trail area and up a small hill, and we saw these two giant pine trees that looked a little bit fluffy, and we walked right in between them, and it's like this amazing hallway of pine trees that, you know, are within an arm's length of each other. So it's like this narrow corridor, and you walk down it, and at the end of the corridor you found this fire ring, just stones in a ring. And that's when I got the most excited of the entire treasure hunt, because I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt this is the spot that's mentioned in the book, and we're so close to the end where the treasures must be hidden. It's almost a certainty that we'll get to that point. So we move past that, we take a number of steps in another direction, and eventually find this tree that you recline on, and then a lineup of you with, you know, two other trees to find the tallest pine tree in this forest. And that did a number on us, because we're like, all right, we see this small tree, and like, which one is it lined up with? So we had to go in circles trying to see which tree is the tallest. And once we found it, we took 40 steps north and found the heart-shaped knot. And the heart-shaped knot is the final landmark of the treasure hunt. And so once we found the heart-shaped knot, we felt like we're at the treasure grounds. The treasure's right here. Like, there's cash ready to be grabbed, ready to be ours. So close. And that felt really amazing.
Can you describe your search efforts after finding the heart-shaped knot?
So my search efforts evolved. I went out there 4 different times looking for this treasure. And the very first time, I'd say it was a bit of a manic search. So there was another group of treasure hunters that was there that had followed the clues and found it. And so I felt there was a little bit of competition there. And I was looking around, searching trees, searching high and low, not doing any sort of systematic search, but just kind of wandering, looking for anything that looks out of place. I'm looking for fake branches. I'm looking for little capsules hidden underneath of logs. I'm doing everything I can to locate this treasure. But eventually it got dark and we had to head out. And between that time and the second time I searched, I kind of devised a more systematic search method. So first I concluded that there's a minimum size that this treasure's got to be, and that's the size of 20 bills rolled up together, which turns out to be like a fairly small capsule size. So then I decided, since the last clue from the heart-shaped knot is that you have to take more than a few steps but not too many, I decided a few steps, well, that's got to be like maybe 5, and not too many would be like 20 steps. And so to keep the search area kind of tight, I decided to say 15 steps. So I went out and I kind of paced out from the heart-shaped knot and was searching quadrants. So, you know, the north and the east and the west, the east and the south. And so we went through these areas, and I literally would look at every individual tree from head level all the way down to the base and rotate around it and poke at the roots. So I'm looking for any fake branches. I was thoroughly checking any hollows, and I was just being as thorough as possible. I was not able to turn up the treasure with these hunts. The third time I came out, I brought another friend with me. I brought some nice work gloves, and I decided this is the time we're going to find it. So I had a major hunch about this animal hollow in a fallen over tree. And so we went straight to that spot, and I was digging arms deep 3 different ways in this tree, and I'm just thinking like, wow, like I really hope there's no possum or raccoon or snake in here that's gonna bite me. Once that didn't pan out, I'm trying to think of like some new approach, and I saw all these fallen trees around in this swampy part of the forest. And so there's tree and with another tree falling over it, and this is kind of unusual. Like most forests don't have so many fallen trees. And I noticed that where these trees intersect, it kind of looks like an X marks the spot. So that was my new theory. So I was searching underneath each of these fallen trees, looking for like a trap door in the dirt covered by leaves, hoping that the treasure would be buried under there. So I checked a number of spots and came up empty-handed. I I had somewhat abandoned the systematic search method, and my search perimeter was expanding, as I felt a little bit more desperate and a little bit more played out. The fourth time I visited, I took a completely new approach. I decided maybe he hid it walking back at the very end of the story. And so I was searching the Ice Age Trail from the other side of the parking lot, and I probably checked a dozen of these giant maple tree stumps with hollows in the middle, and it's interesting to see how many hiding spots there could be and how little is hidden out there. So I felt I gave it a really good go, and I was very close to the treasure. I wish I had gone out there and hit it a little harder at the end of the day. I think I must have spent 5 to 10 hours searching for the treasure, and almost certainly I stepped within 3 feet of the rock it was buried under. So I think I gave it a good effort. I think that I was aware that there was a little bit more to the solve that I wasn't getting, and I'm happy for the people that did solve it.
What are your thoughts on the final solve? You feel like you missed anything?
So I absolutely missed the final hint. So in the title of chapter 2, High, Low, and In Between, the word low is spelled with a 1 instead of an L. And I noticed this reading, I took note of it, but it never clicked with me. So I went through every single word in the book looking for words that are anagrams of north, south, east, and west. And I also took note of every single number in the book. But for some reason, the 0 and the O in low, I didn't take the O in low as a 0, and I didn't notice that the W in low could be a W indicating west. So I overlooked that final hint, which I'm sure, led to the treasure. And I also did not make the connection that at the end of the book there was a hint that said that the treasure is under a rock, based on what one of the characters said. So I'm extremely happy that there is a sensical, extremely logical hint that leads to the final treasure grounds. And I was just so close to figuring it out. I am a little let down or disappointed in myself, but that's what's fun about a treasure hunt. You're solving something. It wouldn't be cool if it wasn't a challenge.
Any final thoughts about the Kayak Jack hidden treasure?
This has got to be one of my favorite treasure hunts of all time. It definitely had me more engaged than almost all previous treasure hunts that I've been in. I really appreciate the authors for putting in the tremendous effort of writing a book and fronting all the money to go into the prize. It was absolutely an adventure, and it was absolutely a memory of a lifetime. I'm looking forward to the author's next series of books coming out in February. I really can't wait. Kayak Jack, what an amazing book.